Welcome back to the Explainer. Okay, I am so incredibly excited to have all you focused learners here today because we're going to break down something absolutely fascinating. We're looking at the mechanical elegance of biological life. I mean, think about it. Every single second of every day, there is this silent, invisible symphony of machinery just firing away inside you, literally just to keep you going. And today, we're going to decode exactly how that works.
You know, we so often think of biology as just, well, a boring list of vocabulary words to memorize. But I want to reframe that for you right now. Think of biology as the ultimate mystery of survival. Seriously, whether you're a towering redwood tree, some microscopic bacteria, or a human being watching this explainer, you have to solve the exact same set of mechanical problems to exist. And if you fail to solve them, well, the machine stops.
So let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to look at the engines of life, fueling up with nutrition, generating power through respiration, the transport network, waste removal via excretion, and finally, extreme survival adaptations.
All right, starting right off with Section 1, the engines of life, and the non-negotiable rules of survival.
To kick things off, we really have to establish the golden rule of survival here. Whether you're just a single cell floating in a pond or a complex multi-trillion-celled human, life requires a continuous, unbroken loop. You literally have to take energy in, process it, and get toxic waste out. Those are your four engines: nutrition, respiration, transportation, and excretion. Now, for really simple single-celled organisms, their bodies are right there in direct contact with the environment, so they can just rely on basic diffusion, just letting molecules drift in and out to handle all this. But for multicellular organisms like us, our cells are buried way deep inside. Diffusion alone just isn't going to cut it. It's not fast or efficient enough. We require intricate, highly specialized systems to keep these four non-negotiable engines running.
Moving on to Section 2, fueling up. Let's look at nutrition, from single cells all the way to complex systems.
So nutrition is all about capturing external resources and breaking them down into usable biological fuel. And notice how beautifully simple this can be in a single-celled amoeba? It totally solves the nutrition problem without needing a mouth or a stomach. It just extends its own body. It creates these things called pseudopodia to physically surround and engulf its food directly. It's like a giant hug of digestion.
Right, so once that amoeba ingests the food, it creates this temporary little food vacuole to digest and absorb the nutrients totally internally. But if you contrast that internal process with fungi, like that bread mold you sometimes unfortunately find in your kitchen, it's wild. Bread mold actually digests its food completely outside of its body. It secretes enzymes to break down the nutrients in the bread externally first, and only then does it absorb them. Two completely different mechanical solutions to the exact same problem. How cool is that?
But humans, we've evolved a much more complex sequential alimentary canal to extract our fuel. The food travels from the mouth, down the esophagus, into the stomach, and then winds its way through the small and large intestines. All along this pathway, we're basically breaking down complex molecules. For instance, breaking down carbohydrates like starch. And actually, here's a fun scientific fact from the source material. If you want to test for the presence of starch, say in some rice water, you can just add a few drops of iodine. It instantly turns this brilliant blue-black color, which physically proves those complex carbs are present and ready to be processed. It's a neat little visual trick.
Which brings us to Section 3, generating power. Let's talk about respiration and actually unlocking that energy.
Okay, so you've eaten the food, but just having fuel sitting around in your cells, that isn't enough. You have to ignite it to unlock the energy. And there are two main ways the body runs this engine. Aerobic respiration is definitely the gold standard here. It requires oxygen, it releases a massive amount of high energy, and it cleanly produces just water and carbon dioxide as exhaust. But what happens if oxygen is suddenly absent? Well, the engine shifts over to anaerobic respiration. Now, this releases much less energy, and crucially, it forms lactic acid. And this is so incredibly relatable. If you've ever done a really grueling workout and your breathing just couldn't supply oxygen fast enough to your muscles, your body actually switched over to anaerobic respiration. That sudden, super painful cramp you felt, yep, that was literally the physical buildup of lactic acid in your muscle tissue.
All right, on to Section 4, the transport network. Let's see how we're moving all that fuel and oxygen around. So you might be wondering, how do we physically deliver that fuel and oxygen to the trillions of individual cells scattered all over the body? Well, we need a highly pressurized transport network. Take a look at the human heart and our double circulation system. It's brilliantly designed. Notice how it's essentially just a giant figure-8 loop.
Blood flows from the heart to the lungs to pick up oxygen, heads right back to the heart, and is then powerfully pumped out to the rest of the body's cells before returning, completely deoxygenated, to start the whole shebang all over again. And I really want to emphasize the sheer mechanical necessity of this specific design. Just think about the immense physical force required to push liquid through literally miles of blood vessels. The blood leaving your heart through your arteries is under an incredible amount of pressure. Because of that, arteries absolutely must be constructed with these thick, highly elastic walls specifically designed to withstand the violent pumping force of the heart. Literally, if they were thin, they would just burst under the pressure. No way around it. Next up is Section 5, Waste Removal. Let's talk about excretion and filtering the system. As those trillions of cells are constantly firing and generating power, they produce chemical exhaust, toxic byproducts that must be systematically eliminated, or frankly, they'll poison the entire system. Now, the absolute stars of the human excretory system are without a doubt your kidneys. You can really think of them as the body's primary 24/7 water treatment and filtration plants. They are continuously processing your blood to produce urine and isolate all that waste. So the really crucial part here is understanding exactly how the kidney pulls this off. And the true hero of this story is a microscopic structure called the nephron. Your kidneys are absolutely packed with them. Each nephron features a Bowman's capsule and a tubule, and they act like these highly intelligent little sieves. They filter out dangerous nitrogenous wastes like urea, but, and here's the genius part, they are smart enough to selectively reabsorb the precious stuff your body still needs. Things like vital glucose, amino acids, and water, they send all of that right back into your bloodstream. Which begs a pretty terrifying question. What actually happens to the body when this crucial filtration system fails? Well, if the kidneys fail to filter the blood, your heart might still be pumping perfectly fine, but the body's delicate internal balance is just instantly destroyed. Dangerous nitrogenous wastes like urea and excess salts rapidly start to accumulate in the bloodstream. If this excretion engine stops, the consequences are quickly fatal. But this is exactly where human ingenuity steps in. Medical science has actually managed to replicate this biological engine through a process called hemodialysis. By hooking a patient up to a machine, we can artificially filter their blood outside the body. It meticulously balances the chemicals and removes the urea, successfully prolonging the lives of uremic patients whose own nephrons have unfortunately stopped working. It's a real game changer. And that brings us to our final part, Section 6, Extreme Survival Adaptations. Let's look at pushing this toolkit to the absolute limit. Because what happens when nature pushes these 4 basic engines to their absolute extremes? Take a look at this data from an incredible 1980 experiment tracking the Weddell seal. It's a deep-sea diving mammal that can hold its breath for just astonishing periods of time. Now notice this. After about 20 minutes underwater, there is this massive, dramatic spike in the lactic acid concentration in the seal's blood. This data actually reveals a biological mystery being solved right in real time. The seal is surviving deep underwater by purposefully shifting its respiratory engine away from aerobic, oxygen-based respiration, entirely over to anaerobic respiration. Crazy, right? But wait, how does it even manage its oxygen before that 20-minute mark? Well, the seal basically aggressively manipulates its own transport network. When it dives, it purposefully reduces blood flow to its non-essential organs by a staggering 80 to 95%. It essentially creates a closed loop just strictly between the lungs, the heart, and the brain. Plus, unlike us humans, the seal actually stores an incredible 70% of its body's oxygen directly inside its blood via hemoglobin. So it gives its most vital organs a dedicated, highly concentrated fuel line, while the rest of the body just goes anaerobic. And this kind of wild ingenuity, it spans across completely different kingdoms of life. It's not just deep-sea animals. Plants adapt their engines too. Take the pineapple, which thrives in highly arid, completely dry environments. Normally, plants have to open their pores to take in carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, right? But doing that in a super dry climate means losing precious, precious water to evaporation. So the pineapple alters its nutritional and respiratory timing. It takes in carbon dioxide at night, stores it in its cellular vacuoles as a complex compound, and then just releases it internally during the day. It literally runs its engine without ever having to open its pores to the blazing hot sun. So, considering the incredible mechanical elegance of something as simple as an amoeba or as complex as a deep-diving seal, how might our own biological engines adapt next to the invisible challenges of survival? It is just staggering to think about.
From a microscopic amoeba using pseudopodia to a Weddell seal literally shutting down its own blood flow to your very own beating heart and filtering kidneys working perfectly right this very second, it really leaves you with a profound sense of wonder about the fragility and the sheer, unstoppable brilliance of life's daily invisible work. Keep questioning, keep exploring the science of life, and I will see you on the next explainer.